We've now visited the factories that make saltpeter here in Geleza, but of course they're all starting with modern chemicals, although a lot of the processes are quite old. We've had a long talk with them, and what we've managed to do is persuade them to actually reconstruct for us the old process, which they're going to do here in this place, again in Geleza. The process here, what we're really interested in, is the extraction of the saltpeter from the earth, and we're going to see them collect the earth, extract the saltpeter from it using water, and then concentrate that by precipitation, and then take that raw, rather impure saltpeter and then purify that and clean it up so we can get saltpeter that can be used in gunpowder. Here we can actually see how they extract the saltpeter from the soil. This square rectangular structure has a false bottom. There's rows of bricks over which they've laid a layer of wooden rods. Over the rods they put sacking. This is rather deteriorated because it's an old one. And then on top of the sacking they lay the soil they're going to extract. Once it's been built up as quite a thickness, maybe about 20-25 centimetres, they pour water over this. The water soaks through the soil, dissolving the saltpeter, and runs out through a hole in the front here and out in here into an earthenware or ceramic pot, and is then taken from there, and then it's further refined after that process.
In comparison to the foreign country.
Well, here we can see they've cleared out the base of the extraction unit. You can see the layers of bricks. And now what he's doing is he's prepared the wood, lengths of wood to go across. So they're going to make a bed of wooden sticks over which they'll later put gunny sacks. The soil of the area around Geleza is just full of potassium nitrate, of saltpeter. It's a very unusual area. What seems to happen is during the rainy season, from July to September, the soil gets soaking full of water. At the end of the rainy season, the end of September, the soil starts to dry out. What happens is that water evaporates from the surface, and by a process of leaching it brings up minerals from within the soil, including the potassium nitrate. The water evaporates from the surface, leaving a layer of potassium nitrate of the saltpeter behind. By about March, this process has finished. The soil is very dry and there's a layer of saltpeter on the surface. People then go out into the fields and just scrape this top layer of soil with the saltpeter in it and collect it. It's as simple as that. We've now brought the saltpeter in from the field, and it's being laid over the gunny sacks in the extraction unit, and it'll be filled up to a level of about 20-25 centimetres. The extraction unit has to be very carefully filled and the soil very well compacted down. If you don't do this, when you pour the water over it, the water runs through too quickly and doesn't extract enough saltpeter. Well, we've completed the extraction unit now with the earth, and now he's pouring water onto it. He pours it over a gunny sack because they don't want the water to run over it very quickly. They want a smooth, even flow of water so it doesn't make channels. So what we want to do is make the water soak through the soil as slowly as possible, extracting all the saltpeter, all the potassium nitrate as it soaks through and comes out in the front here and being collected in the basin they've put in the front.
the same person will lift.
Now we've extracted the saltpeter from the soil in the extraction unit we've already seen. We've taken that liquor now and we've put that in this evaporating pan, quite a small one. You light a fire under this and then they boil it. They boil the liquid down till it gets quite thick. Once it gets to a sort of fairly thick consistency, and I think they judge this by eye rather than any sort of measurement, they then take that liquid, put it in an earthenware pot, and that is left overnight. Overnight this cools, the saltpeter crystallises out. They pour the liquid back in because it will also contain some dissolved nitrate. You never waste anything in this process. And the solid saltpeter, which is actually quite impure, perhaps only 50% of that is saltpeter, is then the raw saltpeter for the refining process and goes into the evaporating tank in the next process. Here we see the saltpeter has precipitated out of solution. He's returning the liquid back to the evaporating tank, because you never waste anything in this process. There'll be some saltpeter dissolved in that. And here you can see the urea, the impure saltpeter, in the bottom of the pan. He's carefully removing the liquid now so he doesn't lose any of the urea in the pan. And there we have it. There's our raw saltpeter, about 50% pure and ready to be refined. Well, here we are on top of the structure, and here we can see the enormous iron evaporating pan. It's almost 4 meters across. They've already partially filled it with the liquor, with the saltpeter liquor from the soil extraction, and now they're adding more. This is a very crucial part of the process. What actually happens is that the saltpeter and the salts dissolve in the liquid, in the water, and slowly their concentration is increased. Now, the important part is the solubility of potassium nitrate and sodium chloride, which is common salt, the main impurity. As the process goes on, the salt, which is less soluble at high temperatures, comes out of solution and sinks to the bottom of the pan. It's then scraped out from the bottom using this ladle, and I think you can see some in the baskets over there. So as the process goes on, the concentration of potassium nitrate, the all-important saltpeter, in the liquid goes up, and the level of sodium chloride, one of the main impurities, goes down. You're constantly purifying the saltpeter, making it better and better. The evaporating pan full of the saltpeter liquid has been boiling for most of the morning. They've removed the impurities, the salts, with the scoops as we've already seen, and now they've decided it's ready. What they do is they just let a little bit of the liquid on one finger. If it drips, it's not ready, but if it just stays where it is and crystallises, it's ready. What they then do is they then scoop it out at the back of the pan into a settling tank. Now, once the large evaporating tank has been emptied into the settling tank, it's left there for about 3 hours. Of course, a lot of the solids and the very big impurities sink to the bottom. It's then drawn off by a very ingenious pipe into a second, smaller tank. From there, it's brought by buckets into this building, and it's put into one of these wooden tanks here set into the floor to cool. Now, it stays in this tank for anything up to 8 days. Slightly shorter in the winter, longer in the summer. It needs the time to cool. They also hang this framework, this lattice work of bamboo across the top of the tank, and that helps the saltpeter to precipitate, to come out of solution. When it's all out of solution, they remove the water and then take the crystals and put them on this, the bamboo charlie. Here, the saltpeter is made into a big pile and clean water is poured through it. This dissolves the impurities which run out through the base of the charlie and are washed away. What you then have here is the refined saltpeter. Once it's taken out, dried in the sun, ready to make gunpowder. Well, we've come to the end of the process now, and here is the final product, the saltpeter, ready to make gunpowder. Now, we've had a truly wonderful day here today, being shown just how gunpowder was made at least 100 years ago, and probably for the last 400 to 500 years. We've seen how the saltpeter was extracted from the soil, then very primitively refined, and then finally double refined to produce the saltpeter that can make gunpowder. Now from here we're going to go east, down the Ganges, following the saltpeter in its thousands upon thousands of tons, down to the English and Danish colonies at Calcutta and Serampore. It was from there that saltpeter was exported to the West and helped to fuel the wars that enabled Europe to dominate the world and shape our world today.